Fine jewelry is more than the stone. More than gold or silver, these are the raw materials. What makes them come alive is the skill of the jeweler in finishing the mounting and setting the stone. The Foredom Power Graver is a tool specially designed to help you produce high-quality jewelry with less fatigue, more control, and increased productivity. During this tape, we'll show you how to use the Power Graver for bead setting, channel setting, prong setting, hammer and bezel setting, decorative work, and engraving. Your instructor is George Bennett, master goldsmith, engraver, and respected instructor.
I've been working with Foredom and the Power Graver for some time now. I'm going to be showing you a number of setting styles using the Power Graver for many of the operations. Stone setting is a detailed operation, and we'll concentrate on those parts of the process that you can accomplish with the Power Graver. Before we get started, let me point out one thing. The Power Graver isn't meant to replace the skills that you now do by hand. Instead, it's meant to make it easier for you to perform the operations you're going to be doing. So let's get started by looking at the Power Graver itself.
Each Power Graver number 2293 kit contains a complete Power Graver system which includes a permanent magnet motor, reciprocating handpiece, bench-mounted dial speed control, and an on-off foot switch. Also included are 4 gravers, a carbide point, hammering tool, 3 collets, collet chuck nut wrenches, handpiece oil and grease for the flexible shaft, and a manual detailing the setup and operation of the Power Graver.
I'll be using other Foredom tools as well, including the new Series L motor. This permanent magnet motor delivers consistent high torque at all speeds, up to 5,000 RPM. This makes it extremely useful for driving hammer handpieces, drilling holes, and general burr work. Anything where heavy loads would slow down a standard high-speed motor.
The Power Graver and the other Foredom tools are designed to give you more control, reduce fatigue, increase productivity, and ensure more consistent quality in a variety of setting, decorating, and engraving applications. In addition, the Power Graver is quiet, compact, and needs no special power requirements. Simply set it up next to your workbench and you're ready to start. Here's how it works. The Power Graver performs a controlled hammering action to the area you are working on. The handpiece accepts tools with 1/16, 3/32, and 1/8 inch diameter shanks. You control the speed of the hammering action by adjusting the strokes per minute with the benchtop dial speed control or the variable speed foot control. It's more difficult to maintain the constant speed with foot control, but if you're accustomed to this method, you have that option. The impact can be changed from a very light impact to a heavy impact with the adjusting ring on the handpiece.
The Power Graver motor generates high torque from 0 to 2,800 RPMs. This means smooth operation and the ability to hold a consistent speed. The variable speed motor allows virtually infinite speed adjustments while maintaining quiet, smooth, efficient operation. The bench-mounted speed control is calibrated to correspond to the motor's RPMs. You can set and maintain the desired speed for each application on the dial control and use the foot switch to start and stop the motor at whatever speed is preset on the dial. Built for durability, the motor is permanently sealed to keep dirt and dust out and ensure low maintenance and long life in all types of operations. The 9D handpiece converts the rotary motion of the flexible shaft into the hammering, reciprocating action that is needed for stone setting and engraving. Before we look at using the Power Graver to set stones, let me show you how easy it is to work with the tool itself. The Power Graver comes with 3 different sized collets so that tools with different diameter shanks, 1/16, 3/32, and 1/8 inch can be used. To change the collets, simply unscrew the chuck nut using the 2 wrenches. One positioned behind the chuck nut like this to hold the shaft and keep it from rotating, and one to loosen the chuck nut. Then remove the collet from the handpiece. Insert the new collet and screw on the chuck nut. It's important to use both wrenches for the whole process to avoid damage to the handpiece. Adjust the palm rest so that the flat section is on the bottom. It can be moved forward and back on the handpiece over the knurled area. The palm rest can be removed when you want to use the handpiece in a pencil grip. The feel of the handpiece is much like that of a traditional graver handle or push tool, without the need to apply pressure, yet with a greater feeling of control while working. This is all explained in detail in the manual that comes with the PowerGraver kit.
George will also be using other equipment that's useful when setting stones or engraving, including a benchmate, an engraver's block, a sharpening stone, graver lubricant, hand files, mill graining tool, beading tool set, pliers, side cutters, burrs and rubber wheels, all of which are available from your jewelry equipment supplier. In stone setting, decorative work, and engraving, the results are directly related to the preparation of your tools. So the first and most critical area we'll cover is how to prepare the gravers and other tools. To ensure a secure fit in the collet, you will need to modify the tools. This is described in detail in your manual. Briefly, new engravers will need to be ground to create a straight tang that is a minimum of 1 inch long and rounded. This ensures a tight fit when inserted into the PowerGraver collet. A Foredom BL1 simplifies this process. Insert the tool or graver into the collet until it touches the bottom of the collet holder, then tighten the chuck nut securely. Retightening the chuck nut periodically as you work may be necessary.
The length of the graver is important. To determine what's most comfortable for you, hold the handpiece as we described before. Extend your thumb along the length of the graver while still holding the handpiece comfortably in your hand. Mark the graver with a diamond scribe at about 1/2 inch past the end of your thumb, or whatever is most comfortable for you. This is where the end of the graver should be for an efficient working length. To shorten the graver, use the corner of a bench grinding wheel to grind through it from both sides until it is thin enough to snap off in a bench vise. You can make 2 gravers from a long graver by grinding the remaining section so that one end will fit into the collet. The palm rest can be adjusted forward for a longer graver or moved back as the graver becomes shorter from repeated sharpening. One of the most important things to remember when grinding is to keep the graver cool. If it heats up, it will lose its hardness. Dip the graver into water after each grinding pass.
George is using a number 52 round graver for pushing or raising the beads. To shape the graver, he secures the graver by its tang in the handle. Grind a taper into the graver that's approximately 2 millimeters high at the tip and gradually expands to full width about 20 millimeters from the tip, as shown in the illustration. Remove any burrs on the sides of the graver.
Before I show you how to use the PowerGraver for bead setting, we need to stop and take a very important preliminary step: sharpening the gravers. I've always said that an incorrectly sharpened graver will be working against you rather than for you. The important rule about hand sharpening gravers is the word rigidity. It's important that your hand does not move. Set the desired angles, lock up your hand, your wrist, and pivot from the elbow. Make as long a stroke as possible and lift the graver off the stone when you're finished.
Here, George is using the new Foredom sharpener. The sharpener is operated by the PowerGraver motor and creates a smooth cutting action that sharpens tools accurately and more efficiently.
Now we're ready to begin. Insert the graver into the handpiece and hold the handpiece as you would a conventional graver. Your palm should sit comfortably on the palm rest, with your thumb to the left of the chuck nut and your index finger to the top or to the right of the chuck nut, whatever feels most comfortable for you. It should feel natural and similar to a regular graver. I'm going to start with bead setting because this is the type of setting that most often trips up the beginner or even the experienced stone setter. The cutting operations, when done manually, require such effort and control that fatigue can set in. And fatigue leads to mistakes and reduces your productivity. The PowerGraver eliminates the need for pushing and consequently reduces the fatigue. Prepare the setting as you normally would. Inspect the setting to determine the position of the stone. Inspect the stone for flaws or potential problem areas. Drill the hole and cut the seat for the stone. For drilling and cutting the seat, I'm using the new 5,000 RPM series L motor with a number 30 handpiece. This low-speed, high-torque motor provides a nice, even power so that the cuts are smooth and the burrs are easy to control. Place the stone in the seat. I like to use a free seat. That is a nice, snug fit, but not friction fit. We don't want to place the stone under stress prior to raising the bead. To raise the bead with the PowerGraver, set the speed control at 2200 to 2400 strokes per minute and set the impact adjusting ring at a medium to hard impact. Now place the graver about 3/4 to 1 millimeter away from the inside wall of the bearing. Raise the graver so the bottom of the graver is at a 45-degree angle to the surface. When the graver is in position, depress the foot switch and let the hammering action of the handpiece do the work. Remember that you're not pushing, you're guiding the graver and applying only enough pressure to keep the graver tip in the metal. This may take some practice, but it will pay off in greater control and far less effort. You won't lose your feel for the work and are much less likely to have the tool slip and damage the stone. To remove the metal around the beads and for general excavating work, use a number 3 onglet graver. Prepare the number 3 onglet graver first by establishing a foot on the bottom of the graver as demonstrated, then sharpening the face of the graver at a 45-degree angle to the foot. Add an 8 to 10 degree angle to the right or left of the graver depending on its use. This will allow the metal to peel off to the opposite side and make it easier to remove. Set the speed control slightly higher, 24 to 2800, and a lighter impact setting for more control around the beads and stones. Position the point of the graver and turn on the PowerGraver with the foot switch. Again, remember to let the tool do the work for you and don't push.
To review bead setting with the PowerGraver, inspect the setting in the stones, drill the hole, prepare the seat, set the stone. To raise or push the beads, set the speed control at 2200 to 2400 strokes per minute and set the impact on medium to hard. Place the graver 3/4 to 1 millimeter away from the inside wall of the bearing and at a 45-degree angle to the surface. Guide, do not push the graver. To remove the metal around the beads, use a prepared number 3 onglet graver. Set speed at 2400 to 2800 strokes per minute. Select a lighter impact setting than for bead cutting. Place the graver in position. Guide, do not push the graver.
You may want to shape or finish the beads at this time, although it can be done after bright cutting. Use the appropriate beading tool to shape the bead by hand or with the PowerGraver. Bright cutting the surfaces around the beads and stone eliminates the need to polish these surfaces, which can wear away the beads. For bright cutting and final finishing with the PowerGraver, you'll need to prepare the flat graver, like the number 40 that's included in the PowerGraver kit.
To prepare the number 40 flat graver, follow the same procedure as for the other gravers. Prepare the tang end to fit tightly into the collet, cut it to the proper length, and then grind a 2 millimeter to 20 millimeter taper into the graver, so it looks like this. You can see the difference when we put it next to this unmodified graver. Using a sharpening stone, create a foot on the bottom of the graver. The foot raises the bottom of the graver off the working surface. Continue to use the stone to create the foot by placing the graver at 10 to 15 degrees to create a foot that's approximately 1 millimeter long. Sharpen the face of the graver at a 45-degree angle to the foot of the graver. You can provide clearance around the beads and stones by grinding the top of the graver tip to a peak as illustrated.
The secret to successful bright cutting is polishing the cutting surfaces of the graver. A polished cutting surface creates a bright cut, An unpolished cutting surface leaves a dull cut. To use the PowerGraver for bright cutting, set the bench-mounted dial control at 26 to 2800 strokes per minute. This speed and a light impact will create a smooth cut. This graver is used only for the final finishing cuts. Don't try to do heavy removal or excavating work with it.
To create a finished piece like this, let's review bright cutting briefly. First, prepare the graver. Create a flat foot to raise the graver off the working surface. For clearance around the beads, grind the top of the graver face to a peak. Sharpen the face of the graver to a 45-degree angle to the foot. Polish the cutting surfaces. Set speed to 2600 to 2800 strokes per minute with a light impact. Guide, do not push the graver. The PowerGraver is an invaluable tool for channel setting diamonds and other precious stones. We are going to use the Series L motor with a number 18 handpiece to first cut a seat for channel setting. The heartburr you use will depend on the size of the stone you are setting. Here George is cutting a seat for the stones. And cleaning it up with the PowerGraver using the flat graver. Be sure to match the seat angle to the pavilion angle of the stones. For maximum striking power, set the speed at approximately 2200 to 2400 strokes per minute with the impact adjusting ring set at medium to hard, depending upon the metal. Be sure that the piece is secured in a solid base to create the needed resistance when hammering the metal over the stones. Now, the PowerGraver with the hammer tip can be used to hammer the metal down, tightening the stones. Filing the top of the ring at an angle can make hammering easier. The PowerGraver lets you apply a steady, smooth hammering action to hammer the metal over the stones.
It's a good idea to experiment with a similar piece of metal to determine the best speed and impact for the particular piece you're working on. Let the PowerGraver do the hard work, improving both quality and production by reducing fatigue.
To review how the PowerGraver is used in channel setting, first prepare the mounting by cutting the seat. Use a heartburr to cut the seat. Use a flat graver to recut or finish the channel seat. Use a modified hammer tip to close the channel over the stones. Secure the piece firmly. Set the speed at 2200 to 2400 strokes per minute and set the impact on medium to hard.
Hammer and bezel setting are very popular techniques for cabochon stones. But from a manufacturing point of view, hammer setting takes a lot of time. This can be accomplished more effectively and with more precision using the PowerGraver. I'm using a Benchmade to hold the setting. It provides a solid base and allows me to rotate the mounting while hammering. If you prefer, you can use a standard engraver's block to hold the ring for hammer and bezel setting. After filing the top of the mounting, use the Series L motor with an appropriate setting burr to cut the seat. If you also want to create a flat surface for a cabochon stone, use a cylinder burr. As with channel setting, filing a slight angle to the top of the ring will make the hammering easier and faster. This metal will need to be removed, so it's a good idea to remove it now. After cutting the seat and preparing the mounting, insert the hammer tip in the PowerGraver and set the speed at 18 to 2400, whichever works best for the metal you're working with. Adjust the impact ring at medium to hard. Carefully start at the inside edge, holding the PowerGraver at a slight angle to the stone. Working around the stone, gradually hammer the metal down to the stone. Let's now take a look at how the PowerGraver can make bezel setting faster and more efficient. After preparing the bezel, set the strokes per minute at 22 to 2800, depending on the type and thickness of the metal. Set the impact adjusting ring at medium to hard. With the bezel held securely in a benchmate or engraving block, begin folding the metal over, starting at the top and working evenly all around the stone until the stone is tight. You can use the number 15 hammer handpiece with the anvil tip to do this.
To review hammer and bezel setting, first hold the mounting securely in a benchmate or engraver's block. Prepare the mounting by filing and cutting the seat using the appropriate size burr. Use a cylinder burr to create a flat seat for a cabochon stone. Insert the hammering tip into the PowerGraver. For hammer setting, set speed at 1800 to 2400 strokes per minute and adjusting ring at medium to hard impact. For bezel setting, set speed at 2200 to 2800 strokes per minute and adjusting ring at medium to hard impact.
The PowerGraver can be used for prong setting also, whether for single or production prong setting. It's very useful for settings where pliers or conventional push tool techniques shouldn't or can't be used. After using the Series L motor and number 8 handpiece with the appropriate setting burr to cut the seat in the prongs, I've installed a modified hammer tip in the PowerGraver. Squaring the tip, then using a small stone or burr mounted in the handpiece to create a slightly concave surface will keep the prong in the center of the tip and reduce the possibility of slipping. Set the speed control at 22 to 2400 strokes per minute and the impact at medium to hard, depending on the prong's thickness. Then place the tip of the PowerGraver on the side of the prong as close to the top as possible for maximum leverage, folding opposite prongs evenly until the stone is secure. Cut the prongs with a side cutter. Finish with a cup burr, rubber wheel, or both.
To use the PowerGraver for prong setting, first cut the seat. Use a hammer tip modified to minimize slippage. Set the speed at 2200 to 2400 strokes per minute. Adjust impact at medium to hard. Place hammer tip as close to the top of the prong as possible. Fold opposing prongs, finishing with a cup burr, rubber wheel, or both.
PowerGraver is extremely helpful for decorative work. It will provide uniform, powerful strokes for a variety of decorative finishes. I will show you some of the most popular of these techniques. Floor is much faster and easier with the PowerGraver. We're using a line engraver to create the Florentine finish. There are two styles of line engraver. The straight one is used on curved surfaces. The curved one is used on flat surfaces. Line engravers also come in a variety of widths with different numbers of lines. Prepare the tang as you saw me do with the other gravers, grinding it to the proper length and with a 45-degree face. Set the strokes per minute to 24 to 2800, depending on the application, and the impact at medium to hard. Cut a series of lines 45 to 60 degrees to the edge of the ring, and then another series of lines at 45 to 60 degrees through the existing lines. The PowerGraver lets you effortlessly guide the cutting so that you can create Florentining of consistent quality. For pave and diamond point finishes, you may want to remove the palm rest from the handpiece for a more comfortable position and better control. Hold the handpiece like a pencil to guide the tip. Insert the Foredom diamond pave point. You may need to change the collet to accept the diamond point, which has a 3/32 inch diameter shaft. Set the strokes per minute at 2400 to 2800 and the impact at medium to hard, again depending on the metal and the size of the dimples you want to create. Hold the point on the metal and start. Don't push. Give the handpiece the freedom to work. Move the point around the surface to create a nice, uniform look. You can also use the PowerGraver to make it easier to create matte and hammer finishes. A variety of different tips can be inserted and used. The carbide point that's included in the kit will create a fine, dull, matte type finish using the same technique as demonstrated with the pave point. Modifying a hammer tip or used burr shank into round, chisel, or other shapes will create more interesting looks. Here's a few examples.
The PowerGraver is quickly becoming the preferred tool for engraving and decorative work. George will demonstrate engraving to show the flexibility and ease of use of the PowerGraver.
You have a wide range of gravers to choose from for engraving, but the most commonly used are the bevel and square gravers. The gravers need to be prepared for engraving by first establishing a 10 to 15 degree foot so that the graver doesn't drag across the surrounding surface. Then sharpen the sides of the graver, each side at 45 degrees to create a 90-degree angle at the bottom. Then sharpen a 45-degree face to the foot of the graver and polish all cutting surfaces. To begin the engraving process, determine where the engraving will be on the metal. Sketch it out or use a template to create the design. Use Chinese white as a medium to sketch the design on the metal. Use a light lubricant prior to each cut. For most metals and procedures, set the PowerGraver speed at 26 to 2800 strokes per minute with a light to medium impact. This will give you a smooth, continuous cut without choppiness or hammer marks. Keep in mind that the faster the strokes per minute, the smoother the cut. As with all other cutting, remember to let the tool do the work. Don't push. Apply only enough pressure to keep the graver in the metal. As soon as the graver starts to move, lower the graver angle until the bottom surface of the foot is parallel with the surface. The graver will stay at that depth throughout the cut. To make a deeper cut, raise your hand to increase the angle. Once the desired depth is reached, level off the graver as it moves forward. To make a shallower cut, lower your hand. An engraver's block and its accessories are an absolute necessity for doing any type of fine engraving work. It is also very useful for holding jewelry in position for stone setting. Depending on the tool and technique, you can cut straight, fine lines as well as wider, curved lines, and decorative touches that result in beautiful engraving like this, with control and without the fatigue caused by having to use muscle power to push the metal.
As a quick review of engraving, these are the main points to remember. Bevel and square gravers are most commonly used. Prepare the gravers. Sharpen the sides of the graver to 90 degrees and the face to 45 degrees. Set speed at 2600 to 2800 strokes per minute with a light to medium impact setting. Don't push. Apply only enough pressure to keep the graver in the metal. An engraver's block and its accessories are an absolute necessity.
This tape has given you the basics of working with the PowerGraver in a variety of applications: stone setting, decorative work, and engraving. The PowerGraver is a useful tool no matter what your level of experience. It's a worthwhile investment for any jeweler doing this type of work, and a tool which will be a valuable addition to any production or repair shop. The PowerGraver is a good way for beginners to learn, because it helps build confidence by minimizing mistakes. This speeds the learning curve.
The PowerGraver is also an excellent tool for the experienced jewelry professional because it lets you do more of what you do best. The PowerGraver is ideal in repetitive factory production situations, increasing productivity and maintaining consistent quality.
As a goldsmith and instructor, I feel the PowerGraver can be a very valuable tool for both the professional and for the student. It uses standard gravers and accessories. It's easy to set up and use. You're going to have fewer mistakes, break fewer stones, but raise production because of the lack of fatigue that you would normally experience.
For more information about the Foredom Power Graver, contact your Foredom distributor.